Friday on the Beat, so you know it is time to fall back. I am joined by legendary rapper CL Smooth, who you know from the iconic hip-hop group Pete Rock and CL Smooth. They cracked the top 100 with songs like They Reminisce Over You, and he's collaborated with everyone from Big Daddy Kane, also a Beat guest, to Q-Tip, to John Legend and The Roots. Also today, I'm joined by Megan Wright, a host of Hot 97, a DJ. She's shared the stage with stars like Kendrick Lamar, Lil Wayne, and Remy Ma. And to top it all off, one and only Joyce Vance, a former U.S. attorney nominated by President Barack Obama in Alabama. She testified recently before Congress this very week all about the implications of the Mueller report. Quite a panel. Nice to have you all here.
Thank you.
Hello, hello.
We will begin with you. Joyce, who needs to fall back?
The Wascom City Council in Texas, 5 white men who this week decided to ban abortion in their city of 2,200. There are no abortion providers in Wascom, but they decided that they needed to firmly put an end to women's agency over their own bodies.
And this is them sort of trying to get in on the other states and other places that have more direct authority, a city council not being the place that really writes most laws.
Exactly, joining legislatures like my home state in Alabama that want to overturn women's reproductive rights.
I think that's a pretty reasonable fallback.
Yeah.
What's on your list?
Linda Fairstein. She is responsible for putting 5 innocent black and brown teens in jail.
In the Central Park 5.
Central Park 5. And, you know, I want to shout out Ava DuVernay, who has the most streamed, looked at, like, Netflix special on the Central Park 5 right now. And I think she does an amazing job using her platform to shed light to things like this. Like, it's just ridiculous. And I think this woman needs to be investigated.
CL, you probably remember when that was a big story originally in New York.
Yeah, growing up and being a similar age as they were when that time occurred, it was just, you know, to have their lives altered and to be falsely accused of something you didn't do, and that's a life-altering situation.
What else is on your fallback list?
My fallback list is how the president sees global warming, and who he contacts and who he believes is his lifeline to global warming. And to me, how can you go to people who feel it doesn't exist?
Yeah, we saw this with and this is the experts. This is the way the federal government's running. You mentioned, it says national security officials sought help from advisors to a think tank that actually disavows the existence of climate change and is trying to undermine the science.
I mean, it's like setting up an administration of terrorists and then saying terrorist doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's like a
How do you do that? How do you just say, just kidding? Just kidding. Everything that you know, just kidding. Just because I say just kidding. Like, this doesn't make sense.
And do you think people who are more inclined to the Trump perspective, do you think they'll believe anything? In other words, I think we have to be always thoughtful about not everyone who agrees with your opponent is automatically bad or question their motives. But I do wonder if they go down this road, it's like, okay, does this mean a whole bunch of people in the country are just going to pretend climate change isn't happening?
Right. I feel like we're in a weird space with a couple things. One, definitely with the way information is put out. You put information out, you see a headline, doesn't matter where it comes from. People obviously, they take that headline, they run with it, right? And I feel like people who are Trump supporters, no matter what he says, what he does, they go with anything that he says without thinking.
What else is on your fallback list this week?
I feel like you don't have to be a huge sports fan to be a human being. I feel like we're human beings. We should care about people as people. I understand that, you know, sports people get a certain way, but if somebody gets hurt, the right thing to do is not to cheer that they're hurt. Kevin Durant.
This is Kevin Durant thing. I mean, this is a very human moment.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
It's the right calf that put him out. His teammates going over to check on him. They don't like to hear the fans cheering.
I'm surprised by that, and the players.
The fans cheering.
Yeah. Like I don't
that.
understand that. I don't think it's appropriate, and I'm Congratulations to the Raptors because they have won. I'm happy for all of my friends that are Raptors fans, but that's still, I think about that, and I think about seeing how much pressure and how crazy that is to know that you're in a place where everybody wants you to be.
Well, and this is fundamental when you talk about other people's well-being. You know, CL, we quote hip-hop sometimes on this program, but that's not all we quote. If you go back further, I mean, really digging into the crates, back to Exodus, when the Israelites are watching the Egyptians drown, in the story, when there's cheering, God then tells the people, he says, you don't cheer for those opponents, even if they did wrong to you, you don't cheer their death because they're also people.
Right, but they're also human. And they've also going against a warrior team that are champions and that show champion heart. And usually in that moment, we're human and we're cheering when somebody is hurt or somebody is not there and they're a formidable opponent and they pick up a sword and challenge you. Then, you know, most of the time you want them to fail.
Right, you get so competitive.
So in the heat of the moment, with that type of piece of player coming back in that moment, I don't blame them.
You understand the passion.
I know it's wrong, but I don't blame them because it's in the heat of the moment.
Megan, I had to hit him with a little Exodus. You know what I'm saying? CL says he understands it. Your rebuttal.
Bruh. No. I will never claim that I'm like an avid, like every day I'm not watching, that's not what I do, but I can watch that and think like, that it hurt me. It was painful to see that, and to see that like you get up and you're doing these things and you're trying to be there for your team and you hurt yourself and then people are excited that you're hurt.
What did you think, Joyce?
You know, I live in a state that takes sports pretty seriously, Roll Tide. Coach Saban, I think, would bench any of his players who applauded when they saw an opponent take an injury like that. It's just not right.
Well, it's one of the things everyone's been talking about this week. Joyce Vance, Megan Wright, CL Smooth. Thanks to each of you for coming on The Beat. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.